Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending the virtual Board of Selectmen's meeting tonight, Thursday, May 7th, 2020 at 7 p.m. I ask that we please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Our first section of the meeting is our public comment section. If there's anyone out in the audience who wishes to briefly address the Board of Selectmen, we ask that you please give us your name, address, and that comments be limited to 3 minutes or less. Wishes to speak on a agenda item, we ask that you request to be recognized at that point. Do we have anyone out there for public comment?
My name is Dave Rojas.
Yes, sir.
You want to hear me? Okay. I'd like to speak in regards to one of the agenda items. So I don't know if I speak now or hold off until that agenda item. The agenda item is for the discussion on the small business grant program.
If you want to speak now, speak, and then we may have you also speak at that time.
Okay.
Danny, this is Peter. Dave's an owner of a business in town, Tri-County Fitness. So,
Okay.
right. So he'll have obviously a particular interest in, and he was one of the ones who wrote the letter that we shared. So his comments may be more germane at the time that we talk in general about the, update on what we're doing to support the businesses, all the stuff that Andy and his team are doing, as well as that agenda item. I just want to make, if you didn't know Dave, I want to
No, I don't.
let you know. Okay. I just want to make sure.
No, that's great. Thank you very much. So why don't you hold off, Dave, if you would, and we'll have you speak at that point.
That's fine.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Dan, Mel Leiter.
Yes, sir.
Mel Leiter, 62 Wellswood Road. I have an update on the project if you'd like it now or if you'd like me to hold off.
Are you going to be in for the whole meeting or?
Yeah, I can be. I mean, if there's a better place for this.
If you want to do it now, that way, if you decide you wanted to head out, you can.
Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. Again, Mal Leiter, 62 Wellswood Road in Hebron. I am the chairman of the building committee for Hebron Elementary School. I just wanted to touch base and let you know that we've had some things of major significance. First of all, the project is currently approximately 66% complete. However, the contractor was forced to leave last week prior to the governor announcing that schools would be closed for the rest of the year. And because of that, work has ceased there. The budget is still looking very healthy. Currently, it looks like we're going to, after reimbursement, spend just under $600,000 on a project that was estimated to be 1.2 million. Both due to good numbers when we bid, based on the time we bid, as well as obviously the 54.28 reimbursement from the state of Connecticut. As the contractor was preparing to leave, we asked the building official to come into the building and to go through it just to determine that the building was being left in a condition that was not, did not leave the town or anyone who might be in the building at risk. And as he walked through, he identified, or he looked up and saw up in the ceiling that there were many, and I don't have a number, but many penetrations through the firewalls, not from this project, but from previous project that had not been sealed correctly. The bad news. We got a quote on it. It's about $88,000 to take care of all these issues. Randy has been very agreeable and very helpful, and has said he will not close the building due to all these fire penetration issues, but they do need to be addressed. So we went forward, and I had a conversation today with Department of Administrative Services. And even though this is not at all connected with the project that we put forward, they've agreed that they will accept the change order to take care of these penetrations. And that means instead of costing, and these are round numbers because we're not finished with negotiations, but instead of costing almost 90,000, it's only going to cost 45,000. Huge amount. But these are things that were either not in the specification for past projects, or were not inspected properly, were not checked properly. Nobody knows. The issue is it's a violation of the fire code, needs to be addressed. There is money available in this project, and so we are most likely, and I'm speaking out of turn here because we have not had a committee meeting to vote on this, but the kind of straw poll said we will most likely move forward with this.
Hey, Mal, it's Peter Casper. Could, just for the uninformed, which would be me, give me an example of this penetration of a firewall. What is,
There
what does that
are
look like?
there are areas in the building that are separated by, they're sealed off from other areas to prevent fire from spreading through. For instance, above all fire doors, fire rated doors, yes, you have a suspended ceiling, but above that fire rated door, and Danny can probably talk to this better than I can, you have a requirement that that area be sealed, as they call it in the trade, from slab to slab. So just because you have a drop ceiling, it doesn't mean you can leave that space there. You have to fill it up with rated walls or block walls or whatever. In the case of what we have here, we have some heating ducts that penetrate through the area that's supposed to be sealed into other areas. There are gaps around those. And the biggest violator that was identified by the bill are all the data wiring. None of the data wiring that we saw had any fire seals as it went through the fire rated space and into classrooms, out of the hallways, into the offices, et cetera, et cetera.
So
the whole idea,
sorry.
I'm sorry.
No.
The whole idea behind this, Pete, is that these areas, if they're sealed off, it doesn't create a natural draft for the fire to spread.
So do we have exposure at other town buildings then?
We may. I mean, Randy shared with me that for the last 2 summers, RAM, brand new, 20-year-old building, and was not properly inspected or was not properly managed when it was built, and they had fire doors that had 2 blocks above the door, and then the rest of it was just wide open space. Well, that's just asking for fire to rush through there. So I know we had issues at RAM. They did address that over the last 2 years. I see Paul's here. He can probably tell you even better than I can. So could we have that in other buildings? Yeah, we could. We could. I mean, it's something easy enough to see if you put your head above the ceiling.
Mr. Larson, can I ask Mal a question, please?
Yes.
Hey, Mal, do you know if this is going to affect the completion date? I was told that you were going to be complete by July 4th because I have an addendum going out for an RFP tomorrow.
Okay.
And if it is going to affect that, I have to change the addendum.
That part will not. However, since they pulled out, it was announced at our meeting this past Monday that the superintendent does not want the contractor to come right back in as soon as he can. He wants them to hold off until the 20th of June, which was his original date to come in. I'm guessing, Kevin, that you probably still are you thinking of paving HES?
Yeah, we were going to move it up to this year, saying that contractor was going to be off the site.
I think you still can do it. And now, would you be doing all the areas?
Yes.
Would you be doing the south parking lot too?
Yes, all the parking lots.
Okay, well, then maybe not, because I was going to say the contract, there aren't that many people there. But there will be cars, so yeah, that could impact it. Now, that being said, and again, at our next meeting, the building committee will be discussing the issue or potential issues behind the change of plans with the Board of Education. It's not the Board of the Superintendent, it's the Board of Education. Yesterday, I heard on the news, there was an interview with the governor, and the governor was asked, what do you think about reopening the schools early? And his statement was, well, yeah, we've been considering that. We've been considering opening schools on August 15th. Now, whether that can be done based on collective bargaining agreements, I don't think that would be a popular thing with parents who may have family plans for the last 2 weeks in August. We don't know. However, at this point, if he were to come back, if the contractor were to come back on the 20th of June, he is predicting his completion date would be the first week of August. First week of August is getting kind of tight in terms of if they have any major issues. They could miss the opening day of school if the governor decides to open schools earlier. Whether he can do that or not, no one even knows. I mean, we're not attorneys, but his last note to me yesterday was, we're going to have to stay flexible on this, because he had not heard that from anybody official. So that's, if we're to let the contractor back in 10 days, it would allow you to get in there with nobody there, because he had said if he can get back in, he'll be done by July 4th. Whatever. This is purely the Board of Ed's call.
Okay, I'll make the allowance in the addendum. Thank you.
Okay.
Dan Larson.
Yes.
And I think I would hope that my fellow board members would agree. If you, the superintendent, Kevin, Andy, kind of piece together some sort of a timeline, I think myself, I would like to see this done as soon as possible. I'm not sure why the superintendent wants to hold off the restart date.
I can tell you that, Danny.
Okay, but well, at any rate, if you guys could get together, and then Andy could propose to us whatever change orders may have to be accepted or passed through the Board of Selectmen. You know, if you gentlemen could all get together and come up with that for us and give us some sort of a timeline, some sort of an itinerary on how this project's going to get moving forward and completed. Does that sound fair to everyone?
Yeah,
John?
that sounds good. Yeah. Question, Mal, did you say 600,000 for our portion? Is that,
It'll be right now, if you give me a second, I did a calculation
yes,
this afternoon. It will state reimbursement, final estimate of Hebron expense as of today will be $529,828.
great,
Yep.
great job.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else for public comment? Hearing none, our next section would be, well, actually, at some point also, Andy wanted to add a thing on RAM. That would be under new business, unless anyone has any issues on that. But, okay, our next thing would be then, good to know.
Okay, Andy Tierney. In your packets, you have the proclamation for the town of Hebron, and it's recognizing a child apraxia of speech. And I'll leave that up to one of the selectmen to read that if they wish.
Okay, Mark, you want to read it? Hearing
I
Mark,
can't even see the
okay.
letters, they're so small.
Okay. Whereas May 14th marks Childhood Apraxia of Speech Day, during which awareness will be raised throughout Connecticut.
Yeah,
about
you can't see it
childhood
either.
Yeah, we're getting it. Childhood apraxia of speech, an extremely challenging speech disorder in children. Whereas childhood apraxia of speech, CAS, causes children to have significant difficulty learning to speak and is among the most severe speech deficits in children. Whereas the act of learning to speak comes effortlessly to most children, those with apraxia endure an incredible and lengthy struggle. Whereas without appropriate speech therapy intervention, children with apraxia are placed at high risk for secondary impacts in reading, writing, spelling, and other school-related skills. Whereas that such primary and secondary impacts diminish future independence and employment opportunities if not resolved or improved. Whereas most children with apraxia of speech will learn to communicate with their very own voices only if they receive early intervention, appropriate, intensive, and frequent speech therapy. Whereas it is imperative there be greater public awareness about childhood apraxia of speech in Connecticut amongst community members, physicians, education professionals, policymakers, and elected officials. Whereas funders such as insurance providers, schools, and policymakers are encouraged to recognize the critical need to provide adequate speech therapy and other services so that the impact of this disorder is minimized and so that thousands of affected children can grow into productive, contributing adult citizens. Whereas our highest respect goes to these children, as well as their families, for their effort, determination, and resilience in the face of such obstacles. And let it be resolved that May 14th is Apraxia Awareness Day, and citizens of Hebron and surrounds are encouraged to work within their communities to increase awareness and understanding of childhood apraxia of speech. And that proclamation will be signed by all of the board members. I will leave it up to Andy to give us an indication of when and where we should stop in to get those signatures done. Andy?
Once again, we could have it set up where people come to the town hall and sign it in a room where nobody's in there. And I think the last time we tried to do that, everybody had a different plan. So if you want us to have Willie take it around to get signatures or have it at the town hall, we'll do either.
It's whatever works best. The problem with going around is you got to verify if the people are going to be home, and he'll be spending literally God knows what kind of time running around town to get it. I have no preference one way or another.
Right. We'll have it at the town hall and just call ahead, and we'll have it available where you don't compromise any of the staff. We'll put it in a safe area or have it out in the drop-off box where you can sign it with a pen.
Okay, perfect. Anybody have any problems with that or?
Oh, that's good.
Okay.
Easy.
Our next thing is we have a resignation from the Zoning Board of Appeals. This is a letter from James Petroza resigning his position as an alternate member on the Zoning Board of Appeals. That's because he actually got moved up to a full member on that board. So now that we'll need to have someone to fill that position. So the motion is to move the Hebron Board of Selectmen accept the resignation of James Pizrata as an alternate member of the Hebron Zoning Board of Appeals. Further, that the Selectmen designate Friday, May 15th, 2020 as the posting date for the vacancy notice. The 35th and final day by which nominations shall be received is Friday, June 19th, 2020. So, any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Please state your name.
This is Gail. Aye.
Peter?
Peter Casper, aye.
Mark?
Mark Rivera, aye.
John?
John Collins, aye.
Dan Larson, aye. Motion carries. Both parties will be notified of that. Okay. Andy, I guess.
All right, Mr. Chairman, item 7A is FY fiscal year 2021 budget update. The Board of Finance had a virtual public hearing that was held on Tuesday, May 5th, 2020. The Board of Finance will be meeting virtually on Wednesday, May 13th, 2020 to approve the fiscal year budget for 2020-2021 budget and the CIP budget, and to set the mill rate. Attached is a summary of the Board of Finance's recommended budget. I think Donna might be able to put that up.
Okay. Beautiful. Okay. I think we, unless there's discussion on this, I think we missed your town manager's report.
Yes, we did. Okay. So everybody knows what's going on in the world today. It's happening in Hebron as well. So we've been very, very busy with starting to assemble a reopening plan. Every day we have governor's calls, new executive orders. So we've been very busy with the Parks and Rec. They're having an association meeting tomorrow, Friday, and they're going to have a lot of guidance on how to reopen their programs, whether it be summer camps. It doesn't look like there's going to be any prep because schools are closed. We still haven't gotten a decision from them yet on Hebron Day, but I'm sure we'll get one shortly. And then also the farmers market, they're looking at that. It's calling for essential people that either have food or produce. So they're going to get guidance from their association tomorrow at the statewide meeting, and Rich will bring that back with an update. So that's just one of the departments. We're working on all of them. The other big thing we're working on right now is the last executive order the governor came out with about opening outside dining for the restaurants. That created quite a stir. The stir being it affected zoning regulations, health district regulations, fire marshal regulations, and liquor permit regulations. So we took it upon ourselves to immediately get in touch with the governor and explain that we needed some clarification, which he has done. And I think the executive order was supposed to be released this afternoon. I'm not sure if it did. If not, tomorrow, with some guidelines. They've got a plan to forego the zoning regulations, and the zoning enforcement officer can come out and visit and meet with these establishments and work through a process along with the health district. Supposedly, the Liquor Commission is going to fast track any modifications to the existing permits. And the only thing that's outstanding, Danny, that you'll probably know is fire marshal things has to be approved by the fire marshal. So we're working diligently with that. That's supposed to happen. It was originally between 7 and 14 days. Now we're hearing it's going to be 10 days. So the planner, myself, zoning enforcement officers, fire marshal, along with some people, consumer protection commissioner, we're working to try to get this so we can help out like Gina Marie's and George's and Bennigan's and things in our town. So that's been keeping us busy as well. I don't know if there's any questions on that before I move on.
No, what's, Dan Larson, now what's happening with the liquor permit aspects of it? Is that going to be waived also if they've already got a standing liquor permit for inside sales? Is that going to get waived for outside, or don't know yet?
Nothing's official. We've been told that the Liquor Commission or the permitting of that's supposed to be fast-tracked if they apply for additional seating or a change to the Liquor Commission, their liquor permit, that will be fast-tracked. That'll remain to be seen. But the biggest thing that we were worried about is taking the liability off of the town zoning boards, because you have to have zoning approval for that. And something simple as well, Mark, I'm sorry, if that reopens. So we're still working with the Liquor Commission, but that's not going to be waived. They're going to still have to deal with them. But I heard there was supposed to be an abbreviated process.
Thank you.
What the town manager's also been doing is we had a conversation with the commander of the American Legion. Questions have been posed to the health district about Memorial Day parades. And that looks like that will be canceled, other than a 5-member or so assembly of the color guard doing the rifle salute at the memorial. There'll be more to come on that. That's not finalized, but we can pretty much guarantee that the parade's going to be canceled. We're in the midst of trying to there's a couple things we have to do, but we're going to try to put a small reopening committee together. We're going to need some help with that. And we would entertain selectmen being on that for our local buildings, town buildings, which would include town hall, library, parks, transfer station, which Kevin and I are working on. We're kind of going to try to fast track that ourselves, but it still would be under that preview once we get this assembled. Other towns are doing this, so I think it's pertinent that we get a small committee of myself, maybe some of my staff, but a couple of the selectmen, if they're available, to work with us on that. This is going to be something the governor is allowing some some businesses to open on the 20th. And I've been in touch with a lot of the other towns through the Town Managers Association. And there's a whole bunch of different ways they're going to slowly let the public back into the facility. So that all needs to be vetted also along with the employees. So one of the ideas Don and I bounced around is possibly bringing the employees back first for the 3 days, the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and go over what the proposals will be about opening, and how many of the public we're going to let in, how many accesses will be open, or other towns are doing by appointment only. I'm not sure that's something that we're going to follow through with, but all this needs to be vetted. But this is all the stuff that we're working on every day. I'm finally proud to announce that the RAM campus improvements meeting to get this going. We had a meeting prior to this meeting, and there's an item that I just added to your agenda for formality that the Board of Selectmen needs to approve. It's been approved by all the other entities involved, including the state DOT, which took 20 plus months. But finally, we got that done, and it looks like we're going to get that done in this construction window. So that's taken up a lot of my time. And the only reason that's nothing that I volunteered for. That is because RAM is housed within the boundaries of Hebron, and the type of grant that this is, they don't release the monies to a regional school district. That has to be to a municipality that's grounded. So we got the short straw on that one. Every day, continue to work with the emergency management director on getting supplies. Like we said, if we're going to reopen, we're going to need it for our workers. We're going to need it for businesses in town. He went up a couple weeks ago and picked up some items and distributed some to businesses in town. We're going to try to continue to keep doing that. I'm in conversations with Paul Bancroft every day regarding some of this stuff. Transfer station opening as well. Kevin will talk about later on the agenda. But other than that, that's been consuming most of my time, along with these virtual meetings, of course.
Okay. Thank you. Item 7B. This is from the Willimantic Chamber of Commerce, stating that the Maple Festival that had been originally scheduled for Saturday and Sunday, March 21st and 22nd, and then rescheduled for May 9th and 10th of this year, has been canceled. That is sad, although with the ongoing pandemic, very understandable. I'm sure that there'll be more information coming from the Willimantic Chamber to discuss how this will affect this event being canceled, and I'm not sure what other steps they need to do to notify the vendors and what have you that had planned to attend this. So I'm assuming more information on that will be coming. Did you have anything more on that, Andy, or?
Just that, once again, I've been in contact with Diane Nadeau from the Chamber, Wyndham Chamber, almost on a daily basis regarding mostly helping out small businesses that are looking for loans or SBA contacts. But also, she had reached out to all the vendors, letting them know that the event's been canceled, and they're hoping to bring it back next year, God willing, or if the pandemic permits. So she's handling all that communications, and I haven't gotten any complaints from anybody thus far.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Okay, next is the Town of Hebron Board of Selectmen Rules and Procedures Guidelines, which had been approved November 21st, 2019. We may wish to review and discuss. again, this is to just try to remind everybody the conduct, the actions which we should try to adhere to. We need to try to maintain continuity and order, and there are things that we really need to attempt to adhere to. One of the big things that always seems to come up is the requests for information. It must go through the town manager. From there, he can disseminate it out to the entities that need to get that information from. The problem is if any of us go directly to one of the town employees, they feel compelled to try to meet the requests because they're employees. They're afraid of their potential interfering or losing of their jobs because they haven't, kept the selectmen happy. But it puts them in a terrible bind, and it adds that much more undue stress on them. We've stated it over and over again during budget periods that we must go through, the chief ranking official, and then from there that information will go to whoever it needs to go to. But this way, it's done in a controlled type of atmosphere. The other thing I think that, and again, we can discuss it, all of us should be on board when people are requesting stuff. We all should materials being requested, and really we need a reason as to why. Some sort of understanding so that when somebody's requesting some sort of data, we have an understanding of the type of data that is being sought and the purpose of it. Again, it's fair to the staff when they're trying to gather this information, so that they're not gathering the wrong information, that they're gathering information excuse me, pertinent to the information being requested. And then again, when that information comes back, it's only fair that it goes to all the board members. We try to act as a board, as a collective, and so the information really in a perfect world should come from all of us. Having a vote or whatever on it, and then we all should be getting that information back to make whatever determination on it needs to be determined. As I say, this does not in any way affect anybody who wants to FOI anything. Everybody still has that privilege. But on an FOI, the town staff can prioritize it in relation to other priorities. And one of the downsides that we've had with this COVID-19 epidemic or pandemic or whatever you want to call it is the town staff still has to get certain documentation out to different vendors, the state, the accounting agencies, all of this, and yet they don't have necessarily the full staffing that they've had in past years. So they're put that much more under the gun. As a perfect example, with downsizing in staff, and it affects all aspects of the town. Hopefully, as the town opens up, some of this will self-alleviate. but we just have to be cognizant that it's been tough on everybody. I don't know if Andy, if you want to add anything or whatever that you've seen, you know, with the state requirements. I know you constantly are talking with the governor every day, and that in itself has really changed how you operate, I'm sure.
No, we're good. All we're looking for is clarification. So if anybody wants information, we want to produce what we have if we have it. I just want, the perfect example is a couple meetings ago, I think Mark Rivera brought it up. Myself, Donna and Elaine, when we put that list of cuts together, we had heard that Mark didn't want it to affect the first responders, but I was under the impression that was for the salaries. And we went back and we watched the tape, and when the motion was made, it didn't really, in our mind, allude to that. So we put a list together trying to be fair and across the board. And then when you guys saw the list, Mark quickly pointed out that in his mind, that was part of the motion and the direction. So I felt, that's why I apologize for that. I just want to make sure that we get clear direction from the selectmen and that we do the right thing for all the selectmen. So that's only my only comment.
Can I just make not a question, it's actually a procedural question. I think last meeting, we got, part of the rules that we have is that we follow Robert's Rules of Order, which I think is a really good idea. And last meeting, we actually did follow it. And I thought it was really good. I would just say that generally, I don't mind if people just having opinions about stuff, but generally we should have a motion on the floor and then discuss it. And I don't think there's a motion on the floor. So this is a topic that's important to me. And because of COVID-19, I'm willing to table this until later because I don't think it's necessarily a good time to talk about this right now. It's not the most important thing, but if there's a motion, I'm willing to discuss it.
Okay. I was just hoping for discussion. I was hoping that we did not necessarily need to make a motion because we do have, and we've done it for the last few years now, reiterating at budget time that people are supposed to go through the town manager, and that when information is garnered, it needs to go to everyone, not just to one person. If you want, we can do it as a motion. I'm just trying to
I'm not aware that, Mr. Chairman, I'm not aware that that hasn't been followed, that courtesy hasn't been followed because, are we referring to something that happened where people didn't go through the town manager?
No, I'm not referring to that. This was asked by a couple of the selectmen to add this back on as an agenda item is why it's here. I don't know if anyone else wants to speak to it.
It seems to me that everybody agrees with this, and I would just say let us follow the rules, and the rules are that we adhere as much as possible to Robert's Rules of Order.
Okay, but how about, would you agree though that we should also be passing our requests through the town manager, and then he should be then seeking out the people that have those answers, right, as compared to us going, directly to.
I don't think there's any incident as that I know of where people haven't gone through the town manager since he's requested that. So.
Okay.
And I agree with John. If I can clarify, and this really wasn't discussion for me, this is the discussion for the Board of Selectmen to have. The clarification, if they're asking my opinion, and it sounds like Danny's on a different subject, is if information wants to be obtained, I only have a certain amount of resources to do that. Does that have to go through the board and the whole board agree, or does each individual selectman have the right under these procedures to just call up? And I'm just looking for some guidance. There's no wrong answer, but I want you guys to give us the guidance. But as far as going through the town manager, that's been going on.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good. I apologize. I was under the impression that we've had a couple of instances where people have gone, whether to Elaine or whatever, and she's felt very intimidated. So,
No,
okay.
that did not occur.
Okay.
I would say,
That's fine.
I would say that this idea that we work as a board, it's very clear that we're all elected individually. The action, it has to be a board action. However, our responsibilities as, first of all, as representatives and fiduciaries is individual. And I actually encourage all members to ask for information through the town manager. And I think we all agree, it seems to me, that that information should be disseminated to all board members. So I would say on both sides, both parties, please ask for information. If it's a burden, I'm sure that the town manager will let us know, and something will be worked out.
Okay. Anyone else have any other comments? Okay, hearing none. Moving on. Our next item is the provisions of the CARES Act. Andy, did you just want to touch on this at all, or?
Yeah, I'll just touch on it. Hopefully you can get the gist of what we're doing. This is an adoption of a provision of the CARES Act, which was recently adopted for retirement accounts. And what we're looking here today is there's a proposed resolution that we would need to do. But in a nutshell, this is due to the coronavirus, or the Corona Aid Relief and Economic Security CARES Act is what that is. Was signed into law on March 27th, 2020 to help ease some of the financial pressures facing Americans in the wake of the COVID-19. If you have been impacted by the COVID-19 and meet the eligible requirements, the act allows more access to retirement savings. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. And in order for us to let the people in our retirement accounts do that, we have to adopt a resolution. And the resolution is in the packet.
Okay, well, be it resolved, the Hebron Board of Selectmen, be it resolved by the Hebron Board of Selectmen that provisions of the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security CARES Act be adopted as outlined above to allow eligible Town of Hebron retirement plan participants to take withdrawals from retirement accounts in accordance with the CARES Act. So hearing the resolution, any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? We'll start with John.
John Collins, aye.
Mark.
Mark Rivera, aye.
Peter.
Peter Casper, aye.
Gail.
Gail Richmond, aye.
Dan Larson, aye. Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll read the motion, then we can have our discussion. Move that the Hebron Board of Selectmen authorize Town Manager and Public Works Director to reopen the Hebron Transfer Station bulky waste disposal with the following conditions. List here conditions requirements such as social distancing and PPE guidance, payment of fees or waiver of fees, and then days or hours. Okay. So with the motion on the floor, is it appropriate for either Andy or Kevin to state what their plan is?
Yeah, I'll go first and then I'll turn it over to Kevin, who's the Public Works Director in charge of the facility. I'll just give a quick overview if that's okay with the whole Board of Selectmen.
Please.
Okay, so as you well know, we have gotten a lot of inquiries about opening up the transfer station. We're still underneath the governor's executive order of essential duties and operations, which the household garbage falls under, but the actual bulky does not. But due to pressures from the residents and the curve being lowered, it looks like the governor's going to start opening up some of these other non-essential businesses pretty soon. So in trying to adhere and listen to our public, Kevin's come up with, we're working on a few proposals on how we can start to do that. It's going to be a work in progress. We had Paul Bancroft, our emergency management director, involved. We also had Russ Millman from the Chatham Health District come up and look at the operations. And in doing so, he was there today, which was the day that the transfer station was open for MSW, which is Municipal Solid Waste. And he wasn't happy with what he saw up there about people not wearing their personal protective equipment, social distancing. So he's looking for us to make some changes up there as well. So we're gonna try to open, and we probably will open, but it's gonna be painful, and people are gonna have to be patient. And I'll turn it over to Kevin with that.
When I was asked to take a look at how we can do this safely, first of all, the employees had a concern about their safety. So that's why we got Russ Millman involved from Chatham Health. He came down this morning, had a long conversation with the whole crew and made some suggestions on staying away from the public, not dealing with handling money. So we built a drop box for cash. We're suggesting, and it'd be up to you to approve it or not, whether that we would just use exact change and give them, round it up to the nearest number and ask them to put the money in the drop box. We'd handle the money at least 24 hours afterwards with gloves on so that there would be no exposures to the money. If anybody doesn't have the money to pay, we would tell them what the bill would be and ask them to mail a check to the town hall. We don't want to get any long discussions with people about what's owed and what's not. Traffic is going to be a big issue. Weekends probably won't be as bad because on the weekends, we'll be able to route the traffic for the bulky waste site down through the public works yard. And we could probably stage anywhere from 20 to 25 cars in there. We plan on letting about 2 cars at a time go down to the lower section so it doesn't become a free-for-all. And we'll hold them up and let them in 2 at a time. During the week is going to be another problem because we're not going to be able to let them in through the public works yard because of safety concerns. So that's going to stack up traffic out on Old Colchester Road, and we need the assistance of the police to handle that. I already talked to Dan Greenwood, and he's going to try to line up us up officers for the weekend and during the week as we need it. We have the emergency message board out front to help send the message of what we're doing. We're going to have signs up saying that everybody has to wear masks. As we were all standing there this morning, there was a good percentage of people that come in with no masks on. And we're trying not to expose not only the employees, but other members of the public. This has been enough of a concern that our assistant at the transfer station resigned. He did not want to expose himself to any of the COVID concerns, because he's 70 years old, and it is a legitimate concern for him. Paul came down today. Paul, you might want to add to this, but he had a concern how we were routing the traffic through the top section because everybody backs in, stands right next to each other. So he had the suggestion of putting a line so we let one car in a straight line, one at a time, go through. And this may cause quite a backup. So we're going to have to try to work that out somehow. And, it might be a trial period to see how it works. If it doesn't, we may have to change back. But I think, it can be done. And if everybody's good with the way we're going to charge and not come in any contact with the people, we're going to stand far away from anybody, at least 6 to 9 feet away, tell them what they owe, let them put it in the box. That's how we're planning on handling that. Any questions?
I'll open it up to the board. Otherwise, I've got questions.
I have some stuff too when you get a chance.
Go ahead, Paul.
Okay, so the plan for bulky waste sounds good. From what I've seen and heard, I think Kevin's got a great plan there. And like Kevin mentioned, we did talk about the upper lot and the residential waste. And that's what, when I heard from Russ from the public health, that's what he was most concerned about. And the real issue is people come in, they back, they kind of K-turn and they back into a spot and they unload. And then you might have, you could have 8, 10 cars lined up and they're all walking towards that one chute trying to dump their trash at the same time. So we're getting a cluster of people concentrated in that one area waiting for their turn to dump. And it also slows everything down. Every time somebody parks the car, takes keys out of the ignition, they start moving slower. And then they have a tendency, we saw it today, they're walking back towards their car and they're running into a friend of theirs and they stop and they talk and they slow it down even more and there's less social distancing. I have been watching how other towns have done some stuff. I live in Andover, so I know how our dump changed. And our transfer station did change to like Kevin described, a line of cars. They queue up, a car pulls up, they get out, they leave their engine running, they throw their stuff in the dumpster, they get in their car, they drive away. We also changed both the food share program and the food bank in Andover, both of which were park and get. We also transitioned those over to drive-through services only. And what we found is that people move a lot more quickly. If they're at the head of a line of 12 cars, they feel that pressure to, get out of the way. And they do their business, they get in their car and they move. So the big concern, of course, would be if we get so many cars, they back up onto Old Colchester. And like Kevin said, we're thinking maybe we should try it on a Thursday and see how it goes and kind of test it out before we launch it on a weekend. So, but that was my big concern, was that upper area and transitioning that to something where people don't park and get out of their cars. And I use the analogy of Harry's place. They had everything all set up correctly. The problem was once people stepped away from the window, they started doing all the wrong things near their cars. So we're wondering if we can get rid of that problem, or at least if the cars are pulling up and dropping off, you'd probably only have 3 or 4 people at most trying to get to that chute instead of 8, 10.
I was going to
Mr.
say,
Chairman,
I've been down to the dump
Kevin
a
a question.
lot. Go ahead, Mark. Go ahead.
Kevin, why couldn't we just do bulky waste on the weekend? I feel your concern for, I don't want anybody near the public works area when you guys are working Monday through Friday. And it seems to try to do both without going through the public works area would just create so much undue congestion and getting people too close together. Why don't we just try it on the weekend first?
It's a good suggestion. What we'll have to do is educate the public so they know what we're doing, because you always have the select few that come in not knowing what the message is, and they're all loaded up and ready to go, and then you end up with upset residents.
Dan Larson. I'm the one car at a time. I've seen times you've had 20 cars in there. There are a lot of residents that use the facilities there, and I do not see any way 1 or even 2 or 3 cars at a time you're going to have backups literally to Niles Road. It gets that insane down there. I don't know, it's better off to block off every other parking or every other spot, or to have where everybody pulls in straight, no backing in, and then they have to just get out and carry their trash. I don't know, but I'm really concerned with that a number of cars that you're not going to end up with extremely long lines, and they're definitely going to be backed up on Old Colchester.
So, Dan, I have a question, because I don't go there. What we found when we had services that were park and get was that people would get there like at the beginning and be waiting for you to open, and there'd be, a whole stack of cars early on. and then later in the day, there's far less. What we saw when we transitioned to drive-through services was people spread themselves out more. It took a while, but they figured out, oh, I don't want to be there at 8 o'clock when it opens because there's going to be a long line, and they started spreading themselves out more throughout the day. So is it always 20 cars deep in there all day long, or is it kind of a rush at certain times?
Definitely on weekends, that place is hopping. Literally all day long, it is hopping. You may get down to 4 or 5 cars for 5 minutes, and the next thing you'll have is you'll be back up to 15, 10 cars in there. It's chaotic. Weekdays probably not as bad, although with so many people home, I really think you would be surprised the number of people that go to the Hebron transfer station.
Well, I know that your town is 3 times, so I compare it to Andover, which is a third of your size. But they only open 2 days, and I know you're open 4. So there's a bit of a leveling out there. The other thing is, it's the timing. If the people are moving faster, if they're moving out faster, if they're cycling through faster, I watch people today, get out of their cars, and they probably spent, 3 to 5 minutes each there. If we can get them down to getting out, getting the stuff out of the trunk, chucking it in, and driving away, and get them down to 2 minutes, you may ease some of that congestion. The real problem is unless there's a way to control who gets out of the car when, if you have 8 cars parked and 8 people get out of the car, they're all going to congregate at the chute. And that's what Russ was talking about today, that area right by the chute. Another option might be you can't get out of your car until a couple people in front of you have already gotten out. Stage the way they get out of their cars. That would solve the traffic problem. I don't know. I don't know the answer, but there's definitely an issue there.
This is John. I've been to the transfer station at least 4 or 5 times during this. It seems to me that people are moving along. They don't want to chit chat. They just want to get the hell out of there because of COVID. I think we need a sign that says, I don't know, I didn't see it. Maybe there is one that says you should be wearing a mask.
There was one put up today, Jen.
Okay, great.
How about something like they do in the supermarkets, at least in the area by the chutes, marking out a 6-foot spacing with X's on the ground or something like they're doing at supermarket checkouts, because that's your congestion point.
They segmented the throw-in, right? You guys segmented so that you either have.
We put a divider up on each side, and we tried using cones to separate the parking spaces. It didn't work. People were backing over the top of them. What we were talking about today is trying to widen out like an 8-foot area out in the front, just to give people more space. But it gets congested, especially on a Saturday. You can come on down this Saturday when we open the bulky, and it should be pretty interesting. So
it's gonna be crazy.
We're gonna have 5 people from Public Works helping out on Saturday.
That's a good idea.
I'm in favor of the exact change, if you will, whether it's a $5 bill for a half a load or 10 for a full, or however you have it. I think an exact change is required. I'm not sure how you're going to. Are you going to use the dump sticker numbers or a license plate to get an idea as to who owes what if they don't have the money? Have you come up with anything on that?
Basically going to be the honor system. We're going to tell them what they owe and ask them to mail it in. We don't want to get into any extreme conversations with anybody over at CN. We don't want to be handling money, and we don't have a charge card system down there.
Okay.
Why
Are
don't
you going to publicly state what those fees are going to be for, somehow, something that lets people have an idea of what the amount of fee they may be looking at for the amount of product that they're bringing in.
We'll use the same rates we use now.
Okay,
Just round them up or down.
okay. John, I know you wanted to say something.
No, I had an idea that wasn't a good idea. It's gonna be wild. First couple days, there's pent up demand. Yeah, it's just gonna have to manage the. It's good that you're having 5 people there.
Again, Dan Larson, Kevin, do you think? I'm wondering if you had people just driving in instead of backing in, if you could get maybe 2 lines where you could get maybe 4 cars unloading at a time. I don't know, you know,
Well,
but
the problem
instead
is
of
it's
having a
bulky.
back in, which takes time and effort.
It's bulky
that would-
waste. Damn,
What's that?
it's bulky waste. So a lot of it's going to be in the back of pickup trucks. So people are going to have to back up to the dumpsters. to
Oh yeah,
unload.
no, I'm talking about up above, the garbage and the recyclables. If they could parallel in instead of back in, and then they'd have a little bit further to carry the product, but if someone
How about, Paul there? How about, so if they parallel, you got the problem with people walking in front of each other's cars, you know, they get out of one and walk in front of it, somebody pulls forward, also put them really close together. What about they come in to the right and they turn left? Okay, so instead of parking next to the dumper, they come in near the dumper and turn left, pointing towards the road. Unload, and then they can just drive out nose first towards the exit. So almost like diagonal parking in a parking lot. You know, those parking lots that you park at a diagonal, except they pull nose out. That would separate people. They wouldn't have to do the K-turn to park. So they come in, you kind of force them to the right a little bit as they come in with cones. And then you could even set up like, you know, 4 or 5 parking spots with cones that kind of diagonal off to the left. They stop there, they unload, they get in the car, they pull forward. The next car pulls into the empty space. So there's none of that backing up, turning, and putting it in park stuff. Sort of a compromise. You still get a bunch of cars in there at the same time, but you're moving them through faster because they don't have to park.
My problem with that is it's going to be lining people up on Old Colchester Road, where at least now I can put in 12 cars inside the gate.
No, I'm not saying restrict it to 4 cars. I'm saying instead of having 10, 15 cars backing up to the dumpster or the dump area, instead of stopping and backing up, they simply come in, turn left into 14 or 15 spaces, whatever you want to do, facing the road. And then they can unload, get in their car, and pull straight ahead. And the next car is in line. If there is a line, the next car can pull in right behind them. So it is a drive-through in a way, but it allows you to stack a bunch of cars in that space. Look at the picture.
Unless anybody else has a comment, I think that's something we're going to have to try on a Thursday and see what we can do. But right now, we got to get the bulky open down below. So I think that's the initial thing we're trying to do.
Mr. Chairman, may I speak?
Yes, please.
Kevin, are you going to be there Saturday or Thursday or?
I will be there on Saturday.
I would propose, Kevin, that you and one of the police officers and whoever else you designate to be with you make up a plan as you see it and develop it as it's going, because you're not going to know what's going to happen. And without the police officer there, people are going to be rude to you and they're going to not follow directions. They don't even follow the directions of the police sometimes. So I think that would be very helpful if the 3 of you are there and come up with a plan as you see it, because we could talk about this all night. What if this, try that, try this. You need to just do it with the leaders there who are going to implement the program.
Good idea. Absolutely.
Andy, you want to say yes?
Yeah, there's a motion on the floor, and that we kind of knew this was what was going to happen. So like everything else where we're relaxing some of the regulations, the motion's requesting that you guys grant Kevin and myself the ability to go out and like Selectman Rivera said, work with certain people to figure it out. I think we're going to have some public input as we go through this at the transfer station. I think Kevin's pretty diligent on what goes on down there. And I think we have some advice from Paul Bancroft and the Chatham Health District Director. So we'll take that in hand. And I think you need to give us a little bit of leeway in these uncharted waters to proceed.
Okay. So, does anybody have any more discussion? Other than that, I'll read the motion again. Hearing no further discussion, move that the Hebron Board of Selectmen authorize the town manager and public works director to reopen the Hebron transfer station bulky waste disposal with the following conditions. Some of the conditions, requirements would be social distancing and PPE guidance, payment of fees or waiver of fees. And I think that we have discussed that we want fees to be collected. And then the days and hours, and we'll let, again, the town staff work out how this is going to work. With that being said, I'll ask for a vote. Mark?
I vote aye.
John?
John Collins,
Peter?
Peter Casper, aye.
Gail?
Gail Richmond, I.
And Dan Larson, aye. Okay.
good luck.
Okay, Andy?
Okay, Selectmen, under item 8C, this is a COVID-19 long-term recovery coordinator and Hebron Town Department reentry reopening discussion. They're kind of separate, but at the same time, I wanted to put it under the agenda as this unfolds. So please see the attached correspondence. This is from the Emergency Management Director, Paul Bancroft, regarding the need for the town of Hebron to identify a COVID-19 long-term recovery coordinator. The town manager and the emergency management director will provide more details information at this meeting. They should also be discussions regarding the reopening or reentry plan for the town departments, buildings, and programs. It may be appropriate to establish a committee or task force to assist and support the long-term recovery coordinator. The following offer was received from the Wyndham Chamber to assist us in that. So there was some information there, and Paul, if you're still on, I see you there. I'll turn it over to you if you want to jump in.
Yeah, so it's kind of a long-term position. They're looking for somebody who knows the town well, knows the town's needs, but is not a key player. Not the CEO, not the EMD. It wasn't super clear on what they're looking for, honestly. Just kind of someone to help guide the recovery process and interface with the various agencies that are going to be helping us out, like FEMA and the state. It's kind of what it is. They said the hours. I asked how many hours we're talking, and they say that would vary from week to week depending on what was going on. I don't really have much more than you. It's kind of vague.
I have a little bit more. Don and I did a seminar, I believe it was last Friday, and it was through CCM. And in a nutshell, what this is kind of a liaison from the town to what Paul just said, through emergency management, through the state, and then possibly FEMA or other departments in the federal agency. And they want somebody to be a conduit to communicate both ways what the town issues may be, along with other municipalities around us, moving forward, and then also to bring the information back from these other agencies to the town, possibly to my town manager, and I would give them to the Board of Selectmen. But they think this is going to be a long-term, without, in layman's terms, they're going to call it the Corona hangover. We're going to be dealing with a lot of this fallout, for us, John stated in many meetings prior, for a long time. And I think it's important that we establish, positions like this and possibly other committees.
Chairman, may I ask Andy a question?
Sure.
Andy, is it a paid position? And what qualifies you to be this individual? Because it just can't be anybody. This person has to have some qualifications and ability.
I couldn't agree with him more, Mark. Of course, the suggestion was hopefully we get a good Samaritan within the town, but as Donna and I bounce things back and forth as they come into our office, I see this as something important, possibly a stipended position in order to justify the time it would be needed to do it the right way. We haven't determined that yet, and they're not suggesting that, but if you want it done right, we pay other stipended positions for a lot less.
I agree. Whoever gets this job could really be helpful or be a nuisance and make everything worse. So I'm concerned about who the person we select is. Maybe it should be a committee to select this person. If in fact we are going to give them a stipend. If it's a volunteer, you don't have much say, but I'd rather have say over the person and be an employee or her.
If you read the document in the packet, it would be the Board of Selectmen that approves who it is.
Okay.
Okay.
We don't have to do this tonight. This is the first glance. I just wanted to get it to you.
I read all of the, Chairman Larson, may I speak?
Yes, please.
I read all of this, it's quite a chunk of paper here. I think it's a very challenging position. It's going to take a lot of time. So Andy, I'd go along with what you said. We're probably going to have to give a stipend. But as for a committee to choose it, the 5 of us on the board certainly would comprise the committee to pick the individual. And if this gets publicized a bit in town, Andy, perhaps some person with the knowledge and the background will come forth.
Absolutely. We could do whatever you wanted. Like I said,
I think we need to publicize it because like Mark said, we don't want just anyone. We want someone that has the expertise, someone that we can vet.
If I may also add, I would recommend someone who is at least somewhat familiar with emergency services, with FEMA, with a lot of your NIMS classes, because again, getting into your national incident management system, people that have some of those trainings, some of those NIMS certifications would understand a lot of this, so it would help to minimize some of the learning curve. I actually would, a couple of people that might actually be interested, if they are available, would be a couple of our past fire chiefs from a couple of generations ago. But I'm not sure whether they would be interested or not in that. But they're people that know the town, know the processes, know medical, would have a lot of good input.
Hey, Dan, Paul here.
Yes.
Yeah, what you said came up, Andy and I, or maybe it was Donna and I, but we were saying some of the CERT team members, they've all had NIMS 100 and some medical, so that's possibly too. I could reach out to some of the members who are residents, and maybe somebody they would want to throw their name in the hat.
That would be fitting, I would say. And then once we get a number of candidates, then we can kind of go through and see just what's going to be the best fit.
Mr. Chairman, Peter Casper?
Yes.
So 2 things. I read through it, but I don't remember the timeline. What's our targeted timeline for the selection of this individual?
This isn't anything we have to rush into as much as the the other committee for the reopening of the buildings. That's more important that we move immediately on that. And that's something we can do offline, and I'll be in touch with all the selectmen and propose or solicit who wants to help with that. But this is something that we can work on for the next selectmen's meeting, and then even the one or two after that. We have a little bit of time. This is
Great.
long term.
And just one comment, I think, from what I heard is I love the idea that we have some individuals identified, and I also would support a broader application and notifications just to see if there is anyone else in the community that might be just as qualified, or I want to make sure we publicize it as well, just to make sure we vet out everyone possible to get our best candidate. So I assume we'll do that, but I just
Yeah.
make that comment. Thank you.
Dan Larson, one of the possibilities may be to actually put up something on the message board, looking for a or someone to help to do this coordinator position, and to then contact the town hall or a website or whatever that would kind of get more of the information of what we're looking for. The problem is, without much in the way of press anymore, it's hard to get stuff out to the town.
We've got some ways to do it. The River East is going to be opening back up.
Okay.
We can put it on our Facebook page or website, but we'll get the word out there. Mostly for tonight, it was brought up to us just last week. We wanted to get it to you, but as Peter just brought up, it's nothing we're going to rush into. We're going to plan this out, make sure we vet some different names and put them in front of the Board of Selectmen with their resumes, and you guys can choose at that time.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay.
Too much stuff. So next, Mr. Chairman and Board of Selectmen, is the Hebron Small Business Grant discussion. And I think Selectman Casper is going to talk to this at first, and then I have some information as well.
Okay.
Great. Mr. Chairman, may I?
Yes, please.
Oh, thank you. So Peter Casper, so thank you for putting this on the agenda. This was an item as we continue to think about how we can help our community and our small businesses specifically, that I had, through a contact I have exposed to a grant program that was established in the city of Lacey, Washington, about 4 or 5 times our size, very successful, targeted specifically to the small business community. And that was outlined in the material provided, and then in conjunction with some of the small businesses that I've been talking to. And I know obviously Andy's been, and his team has been in touch with quite a few of them. And we previously talked about the long-term road back for many of these businesses, and the idea of, can we do more? And is it possible for us as a town, specifically as many of these businesses struggle as they wait for the federal aid, the Small Business Association, the loans, as they wait, they have a tremendous amount of hardship that has started to become pretty evident, and then some significant fears that it won't come soon enough, or as they ramp up with the requirements that are not going to be put forth in the transition, will put them at a significant economic disadvantage. So the concept was, should we or could we discuss how we could potentially do more? And this was one idea that I wanted to bring before the board, and continue to challenge ourselves to answer the question, are we doing everything possible to help our community? And obviously the businesses are an integral part of that. And I know we have a couple of business owners, or at least one on the line still. But again, this is not anything other than a dialogue. I know we're doing a ton, and Andy's doing a ton. It's just really challenging ourselves to see what we can do to creatively think about how we can help our community and our business community specifically. So thank you for putting this on the agenda.
Okay. So did you want to discuss how this program would actually work, or Andy, or?
I can speak to what I've done and found out thus far. I've reached out to CCM. I reached out to legal. I reached out to the Chamber of Commerce, and I reached out to the Small Business Association. And the only thing that I found in the state of Connecticut for like a foundation grant, the only one in the state that I know of, and I could be mistaken, it was done in the city of Hartford, and it's being administered by somebody other than the municipality or the city. And it was more of like a metro, larger cities core area, and it's a foundation grant. But the monies were donated privately. So Luke Bronin had worked with some of his companies within Hartford to get that done. So what Peter's describing and what I looked into the statutes and talked with legal, and there was several attorneys through CCM that looked into this for us. They couldn't find anything that the municipalities are doing as far as applying for grants other than like these foundation grants. And a lot of it has to do with the demographics of your towns, which weighs in the amount of minorities that you have, some of the criteria, household income demographics, where we a lot of times don't qualify for that stuff. So it's not for lack of trying. I looked into it, and I'm going to continue to look into it. And if there's anything that we can do here in Hebron or within the state of Connecticut, they'll get back to me. But I got those answers as late as today from CCM, the attorneys, and then talking with Diane Nadeau. What I have done is we're in direct contact with the congressman's office down in Norwich, SBA, the Chamber of Commerce, which we pay dues for this types of service. And I've been engaging our economic development coordinator as well in all these requests or any types of questions regarding help. And we've got some webinars set up. I know Diane Nadeau has talked to anybody that I know was looking for guidance and put them in touch with people at SBA. The Labor Department supposedly, as soon as tomorrow, is hopefully, I know they opened up the application today for the people that work for themselves to get unemployment, and that's supposedly going to be fast-tracked more than the other people, and it will be retroactive. So there's some stuff going on. We're going to hear about a bunch more stuff tomorrow from the governor on some of this restaurants, retail, salons, spas, which covers nails, and then possibly even almost dentist offices reopening with some sort of structure and possibly some sort of help for the owners or self-employed people.
So one of the things, I'm sorry, Dan, do I need to ask you to continue? So is it possible, and I'm just asking, is it possible for us to establish a grant with our own funds and not have to apply for a grant, so we could provide some opportunity to, like we do rebates now, we help the seniors, we do we do a lot of things for our community. Is it possible for us to establish a grant with our own funds as we look for other funds potentially?
The short answer to that, and it's not the one you probably want to hear, but I was told no. It's because it's taxpayer dollars that were collected, and there's state statutes that govern what we can do. And you just stated what we can do. You can do tax abatements, but it's pretty clear what you can and can't do. And they don't see municipalities as lending institutions, unfortunately, especially in this matter, this case, what we're dealing with. But I did pose that question to legal, and I got a response back that says not so much in Connecticut. There may be other states that allow this, but what I've looked into was what I stated was mostly private funded foundation grants, and they were administered not by the municipality. The municipality had probably some criteria in it, who gets it, but it wasn't through the municipality itself.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to speak. Obviously, there's probably nobody here more than me that would like to get free money from the town of Hebron to help the business, but I don't see how we can use taxpayer money to help businesses. The only thing I could think of is have a GoFundMe page, or it just seems that, Peter, you want to do the right thing and find a way to help, but through the public sector, I don't think is the way to do it. I know I'd feel funny if we received taxpayer dollars to help us at something simple. I think there's a problem with that.
Okay, I mean, that's a good
No.
point. I think I respect your opinion, and I'm bringing forth material that was provided by another municipality. And
Yeah.
so it's not like it was just sort of an off the cuff idea. And I see the business community as taxpayers. I mean, they are Hebron taxpayers. So it's very specific to our Hebron tax dollars, helping our Hebron taxpayers. If these businesses go out of business, we have a much bigger problem. And I see it as a community problem, not a business owner problem, but a community problem. Some of the business I've talked to may not survive. And obviously, I'm sure you have those conversations at home too.
Right.
And then what does that mean for the town? And so the value of our town is predicated very much so on the vibrancy of our business community and the survival of our business community. We have 4 or 5, 6 doors shut. I don't see how they're going to reopen with a new business very quickly. And that obviously has a dramatic potential impact on the town. And so that was sort of the perspective. But yeah, if we can't do it, we can't do it. And I also don't want to forget that Mr. Rojas had delayed his comments as a business owner in town. And I see him still on the line. I don't want to miss an opportunity to hear from one of our business owners. So I don't know if it's appropriate now, Mr. Chair, but I do recall that Mr. Rojas wanted to speak, and we thought it was best that he, again, speak during this time period because it was a little bit more germane, seeing that he's one of our business owners.
Dan Larson to the board. Anybody else want to speak first, or?
I just want to applaud Peter for bringing the idea to the board. Well, I take Mark's point. It's really good to bring new ideas, and it's a good idea, and how to fit it in. We have to discuss it, but great idea. Thank you. Thank you for bringing it.
Thanks, Peter.
Mr. Raj?
Rojas, yes, thank you. Peter, thank you, everybody, for taking the time. I think I've heard a lot. I appreciate you guys even considering it. It sounds like there's obviously a lot more at play. Again, a small business owner. We've been in business, my partners and I, who I think are also on the line, for the last 9 years. And it's really just been more of a community service than anything else for us. So I do appreciate you guys looking into it. I think it's important to a lot of us. This isn't something that we're doing to be this giant, profitable, huge organization. It's really something we're doing for the community, and that's how it started. It started with a passion, and it's 9 years deep now come June. So the reality of it is the EIDL loans, the PPP loans, the SBA, I've been in contact for weeks now, and if it's coming, we haven't seen it yet. And it's coming up on 6 weeks now. And there's also, being a very small business, a family-run business, it's the PPP programs we don't qualify for. So it really does come down to grants. It really does come down to these EIDL loans, if they do come about, and finding resources that we could potentially use as far as grants or what have you. I did speak to the Chamber of Commerce. I spoke to Diane this morning. Yesterday, I also spoke to John from the Economic Development Council. So they've been very helpful. I'm going to continue to reach out to them and utilize the webinars that Diane has organized in the coming days. But again, just there's a lot of small businesses. Mark, I know you know that, obviously, out there in Hebron, and I think Peter brings up a great point. We're all taxpayers in this town, and without us, what do we have? So I appreciate the opportunity, and look forward to hearing back from you guys.
Mr. Chairman, may I comment?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm a member of Dave's Gym, and I miss it, Dave, and you are definitely a very valuable member of this community. It serves more than just a place to get fit. It's a place where people meet and support each other. And, I feel bad for myself. I feel bad for you. I feel bad for all the businesses. I appreciate you coming to talk, and as a selectman and just a citizen, I value you and your business. Thanks, Dave.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
And I too, my son was a member of your gym before he went to college. There's two ways, I guess, I hope that we can help. Clearly, you can participate in the tax deferral, the low interest loan, basically, that we give. That's for businesses too, right, Andy?
Your mic, you're muted, Andy.
Sorry about that, Mr. Chairman. John, I'm not sure at this point. I'd have to check. Donna's online. She might know better. I'm not sure if it is at this point.
If it's not, certainly we could vote to make it available to businesses, I hope. Let me just say the second way, which is, I'm going, I don't usually go to takeout. I'm taking out all the time now. And, the turkey burgers at Finnegan's are very good. I just want to tell everybody. But one thing that we can be doing, all of us, and I do this on my Facebook page, and we could do it as a town, is to advertise all of the different vendors and encourage local people to use the gym, the local businesses, and just help them get more business, help them get on their feet that way. I think that is appropriate. I don't think anybody's going to feel like we are favoring anybody, since we favor everybody, and if we make a concerted effort, both personally but also as a town, to market everybody's services, that could be a very powerful help.
Thank you.
It's Donna here. I can comment on the tax abatement program. Right now, the program that we have, the tax deferment, is for property taxes for residential dwellings. This particular program does not cover businesses.
Can we get a legal opinion on how we would do that? How we could make it applicable for businesses? Because that could be $8,000 or $9,000 deferred for each business.
We could check with legal. This falls under a particular statute, so we would have to see if there is any type of statute or legislation that we would be able to implement through an ordinance that would cover that.
Dan Larson, I know at one time we had an established business had approached us for a tax deferment, and it was deemed to not be possible. It was only as they were doing new construction. The state is pretty strict on what you can or can't do. But I do appreciate Peter's interest in this. I would say that the chamber may be the best entity to be able to capitalize, if you will, and collect funds that could then be doled out in some manner or form to assist businesses to help ride through this event that we're facing. Also, I don't know if you could do advanced sales for memberships, things like that. But it's definitely important to let all the businesses out there, especially the ones that aren't going to be able to open up immediately, let people know how they could assist and or whatever to keep these businesses supported.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
The one entity that probably could deal with it is a 501c nonprofit would be the Town Center Project. They would have the legality and the structure set up to do some of the things we're talking about. It definitely should be in a nonprofit's hands and not in a municipality's hands. So that may be something to explore, Peter.
That's a good idea, Mark. I didn't think about that, so thank you for that.
So, Mr. Chairman, I think there's three things on the table. There's Peter's grants idea, which Mark has suggested should be go through a private organization or a nonprofit. Then there's the abatement, which is probably more difficult. And then there's the actual tax deferment, which would be a low interest loan. And there's two parts to that, whether they could be part of that now, and we'd have to have a legal opinion, or whether we could actually quickly set up a program where they did that. And I just say, the taxes from the commercial people in town amount to less than 5% of our tax base. So I don't see it as a big hit to us, and it could be very helpful to them.
We'll definitely look into this, Mr. Chairman. We will take this under advisement and get going as soon as probably Monday. I'll reach out to the legal tomorrow, and we'll get you the answers that you guys are looking for. We'll continue to try to find avenues, and there may be new areas that open up due to this pandemic as well.
I would
Mr.
say that-
Chairman.
Thank you.
Yeah, Andy, thank you. I know you've got a lot on your plate, and so I appreciate all the work that you've done thus far to provide the information. And obviously, thank you in advance for continuing to do what you always do, which is to fight for our community. So thank you for the time you're going to be spending on this going forward.
Okay, thanks. I just had one more comment regarding this agenda item before we move on, if that's okay.
Please go ahead.
So I think most people know that they're looking to open some of the business May 20th, some of the public buildings May 20th. And then they're talking about looking at the remaining businesses that aren't open, possibly opening on June 20th. So I want to revert back to that small task force I think we need to put together, whether it's 5 or several people that would need to meet, because there's a lot of things that need to be discussed, whether I'm sure the planner is going to be involved, planning and zoning, legal, fire marshal, a whole bunch of entities are going to have to get involved in opening up these businesses and make sure they're doing them in compliance with the regulations that are in place. So we're definitely going to need some help on that. And with some of these businesses opening within 7 to 10 days, we'll be reaching out probably as soon as tomorrow to some of you to see if you want to set up or be a part of that committee.
Yes, I would say that we actually should hopefully have names and be able to actually start making some appointments. I would like to say by our next Board of Selectmen meeting, if at all possible.
Yeah, I agree.
That sounds great. Could I just add one last thing? In terms of getting more business for the local businesses, this idea of a Buy Hebron program, maybe we could ask the EDC to help on that.
Absolutely.
Because I don't think it's alienating to other communities in the sense that Hebron actually buys a lot more from Colchester, Glastonbury, Marlborough than they do from us anyways. So, the idea of that we want to help our own businesses is not, I don't think is a big deal.
No,
Great.
I agree. And we are using that Charlotte's Web to advertise businesses and support local and within our community. And then also there's another small group that's doing it on the Facebook community page, trying to support local. But anything like John just suggested will definitely help. And one thing the Board of Selectmen can do is reinstall my gym membership, and I could buy a membership in advance from the gentleman that's online.
Let me know when you're ready. I'm always ready.
Sounds fair. Okay,
Thank you, everybody.
thank you. Thank you very much, David. Next, please.
Next, I believe this is where we added that RAM information, the approve award of bid for RAM campus improvements. Look at Donna. Donna's right on the spot. Thank you, Donna. So, go ahead.
I was going to say, go ahead, please.
So the project authorization letter with the state of Connecticut or the Connecticut Department of Transportation for the RAM Campus Improvements Project was signed this week. Attached is a copy of the agreement and other information regarding the recommendation to award the bid to the low bidder for the project, which is Milton C. Beebe and Sons, Inc. And there's a proposed motion. So in this packet that got sent out, I think today to you guys, if everybody got it, it lists the letters of the agreement that the state's going to fund the project. It's called a PAL agreement. And then also it lists all the estimates for the construction costs. And then there's a letter from me to the state, telling them, asking them to award it to the low bidder, Milton Beebe. And then there's Luke's, the engineering consultants that were hired for this project recommended the same thing, that we hire Luke's and that we are complying with all the regulations, that they're an equal opportunity employer. We covered all those bases. And then the final, I'm sorry, Don, if I'm going too fast, the final sheet is the bidders and the amounts that shows Milton Beebe and Sons from Stores as the low bidder. So as I stated earlier, the RAM Board of Education budget supports this. The committee that's in place for RAM project committee has approved this to move forward. And I told you the rationale that the town has to do it as well, because the grant monies go to the municipality that houses the campus or the school in its town.
Okay, thank you. Move that the Hebron Board of Selectmen award the contract for the RAM campus improvements to Milton C. Beebe and Sons Incorporated of Stores, Connecticut, in the amount of $984,500 $984,590. Is that correct?
Yep.
And authorize Andrew J. Tierney, town manager, to sign any necessary contract documents. Hearing the motion, any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll start with Gail Richmond.
Gail Richmond, aye.
Peter Casper,
Peter Casper, aye.
John Collins,
John Collins, aye.
Mark Rivera,
Mark Rivera, aye.
and Daniel Larson, aye. Motion carries. Okay. Next. One thing I would like to ask, are we going to get open burning up and going again? Your mic is off.
Sorry about that, Mr. Chairman. Yes, that is open. There was a little technicality this weekend that I had corrected, but we are giving and awarding burning permits.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so our next item is going to be our next.
Yeah. I've been waiting to make a comment, please.
Okay, this is who, please?
This is Carolyn Asmuth. I'd like to make a comment, please, on behalf of Tri-County Fitness.
Okay.
Is it okay?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay. My name is Carolyn Asmuth. I reside at 71 Buttonwood Road. I've been a member of Tri-County Fitness since it opened 9 years ago. I'm here today to urge the town to support Tri-County Fitness in any way they can so that they can remain an integral part of our community. Dave, Jeff, Al, and their wives have always been hands-on and let us know that they are always just a text away if any problems should arise. Tri-County Fitness is absolutely the cleanest gym I've ever belonged to. Someone is constantly cleaning equipment, floors, bathrooms. We have several cleaning stations and all equipment is cleaned after each use. Tri-County Fitness is a place where friendships are formed between townspeople from all walks of life. We have firemen, policemen, nurses, pharmacists, coaches, lawyers, technicians, retirees, as well as high school and college students. They are all part of our Hebron Gym family. Please help this small gym stay open so we can continue to commit, persist, and succeed with our exercise routines and friendships. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think if you have been listening, you will agree that we are looking at how we can assist them, while still following, rules, regulations, and, the state's legalities. So,
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for all your efforts. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And thank you. Okay, our next, wow, May 21st agenda. If we have anything to add or whatever, please let's get it in so we can get it hopefully added onto the list and discussed. We have our consent agenda, which right now we need to go back.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just question. When does our state of emergency end? Does it end when the state ends its state of emergency, or?
At this point, I would say yes.
Okay.
We're still in virtual meetings and all of this. I would say until the state deems that we can go back to normal protocols.
Okay. Just wondering.
I mean, if I'm wrong, please somebody correct me, but I don't know how we can do otherwise. Andy, I don't know. Do you have anything you want to add on that, or?
No, it's a great question. I actually had that question myself, John. So what it is we're still under executive order, and as long as we're under executive order, it's pertinent that the town of Hebron keep theirs in operation. So it would be in concert with that. Once that quiets down and we aren't underneath executive orders from the governor, I think we can rescind ours. I think John's muted.
Great. No, great. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, so our next thing would be consent agenda items. As I say, we have a number of them. We can do it as individually adopted, or we can break them out and vote on them individually. We've got the April 9th special meeting, the April 13th emergency meeting. That was the Wyndham storm damage coming up. The April 14th special meeting budget workshop, the April 21st special meeting budget workshop, and then the tax refunds as listed. Does anyone have any reason to break any of these things out, or can we vote on them as a whole?
As a whole.
Hearing, I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
I just said as a whole.
Okay, so hearing no purpose or reason to break them out individually, I make the motion that the Board of Selectmen approve the following consent agenda items and motions contained therein as if individually adopted. Excuse me. That would be the April 9th, 2020 special meeting, the April 13th, 2020 emergency meeting, the April 14th, 2020 special meeting budget workshop, the April 21st special meeting budget workshop, and the tax refund is listed. Who do we start with? We'll start with John Collins.
John Collins, aye.
Mark Rivera.
Mark Rivera, aye.
Peter Casper.
Peter Casper, aye.
Gail Richmond.
Gail Richmond, aye.
And Daniel Larson, aye. You got to make sure you people are awake out there. Okay, thank you. Next. We should have a public comment section, I believe, at the end. Is there anything else to come up? Actually,
Well, the liaison reports.
I was gonna say the
We have
liaison.
You have the approval, through Andy, it's on the agenda, you have approval of minutes. And it's list, Don will bring it up in a second, I believe. You have the April 9th, you have the April 13th, April 14th and April 21st. The first, good.
I think we did all that.
Yeah, I think we got that.
We did that. We just
Okay.
did.
Now we
All right.
have the liaison reports. Mark?
Just quick comments about RAM. Virtual school is going really well. I've been working with the Board of Ed and the administration and students still. And we've been taking this time to improve security and safety and work on all the things that we didn't have time to do when school was hopping. So I'm pretty proud of the kids in the school for staying the course and being responsible and continuing their education. I'm done.
Okay, Gail?
Okay, I have my 3 reports. The Hebron Board of Ed hasn't met in over 3 weeks, but things have been happening. The teachers have been sending lessons home each week and using videos and other platforms to teach. One-on-one lessons have also been occurring as needed. The Board of Ed staff have served over 7,600 meals and provided over 280 computers and iPads for students to help the youngsters learn at home. The Commission on Aging Senior Center, as you know, the activities at the center are all suspended. However, home-delivered meals are still being left at the door step of the recipient, no interaction. Social service needs are being evaluated by phone and then handled on a case-by-case basis. Dial-a-ride is suspended except for essential transportation. Something else that I was delighted to hear about, they are phoning the individuals that are 75 and over and other vulnerable persons to do a wellness check. So far, they've made over 500 phone calls. The last scheduled meeting of the Board of Trustees was canceled due to COVID-19. The library is closed, but they're delivering services in a new manner. 32 virtual storytime videos have been released on the library's YouTube channel. So far, they've been clocking over 900 views. They're doing a new story just about every day. And the library is also collecting personal stories about how people are dealing with this stay at home in order to preserve the local history.
Thank you. Peter?
Peter Casper, Board of Finance, met relative to the budget, so I think most of us were on those meetings. So I have nothing new to share other than what's already been reported by the Board of Finance in the budget. And the Parks and Rec Commission has not met, so I have not been part of any updates from that commission. That's all I have.
Okay, great. Andy?
Mr. Chairman, I feel I already reported mostly on my RAM project that I'm a liaison to.
Okay.
I don't have anything else.
Nothing on WPCA or?
No, I'm sorry. We continue to work forward towards the bonding. We're still trying to wrap up the audit. We're getting closer, but we're not there yet. I know it's now May. I was supposed to have that guaranteed to us by our auditors by the end of April, but there's some information we're still waiting to receive from the schools system. And the staff up there is very new, so we're trying to work with them to get that. And then once the audit is done, we can move forward with the bonding.
Okay. John?
I have nothing. I was really smart and got Mal to come here, give his rundown. It was very complicated things happening at HES. That's it.
Quick question for you, if I may. Have you been in communications with the Green Committee? And if so, are they still planning on doing any kind of a cleanup day or, like we've done in past years?
I haven't heard from them since COVID, and I think the chairman actually maybe under the, I don't know. I think she has some health issues.
Oh,
Yeah, that's what I heard. But
okay.
I will get in contact with her and see what's happening.
If,
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if you want me to comment on it, I can offer some information.
Sure, please.
So due to the COVID-19, that's normally was scheduled around Earth Day, those activities were canceled, the cleanup.
That's sad.
Yeah.
That's sad. And then myself, with the only meeting that was the fire department, and that was Tuesday night, and we had the Board of Finance meeting, so I was not able to make that. And at this point in time, Historic Properties has not met, and nor has anything with the salmon watershed or any of that. So you don't have to listen to me anymore. I know, everybody's happy. I could just see the smiling faces out there. Okay. With that, anybody have anything else for good welfare?
Mr. Chairman, I just have one thing I'd
Public
like to say.
Yes.
Hey, I'd like to publicly thank Paul Bancroft for doing everything he can to keep me safe, keep all the first responders safe, and we all really appreciate that, Paul. I just wanted to say that publicly to you.
Okay. Anyone else? Do we have anyone for the public?
There is one public comment here from Al. Al, are you there? Do you want to read your comment or would you like me to read it? Okay, this is Al. Hello, this is Al Lazaraga, one of the owners of Tri-County Fitness. Thank you everyone for taking the time to discuss. We appreciate any help. Stay safe. And that is all that's showing up here in our chat.
Okay, great. Well, we appreciate all of our Hebron businesses, and Hebron is a community that hopefully will help wherever we can. Okay. Gail.
I make a motion that we adjourn at 9:02 p.m.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
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 All right.
Okay. Thank you very, very much, everyone.
Good night,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Everybody.
Bye.